Sometimes you just gotta go Bardown.
Kirill, top titty 2x4 to end the game. That was nice.
Bardown Beauties.
That's the sexy part of the game, is it not? The plays and the goals and the...
Yeah, that's what you guys like. I mean, it is great.
And now, a new episode of Bardown Beauties with Jesse Pierce and Kirsten Kroll. All we want is a gosh darn parade. All we want is a gosh darn parade. The sentiment doesn't get any more Minnesotan than that. SotaStick knows Minnesota and Minnesota sports. Grab the parade tee, even available with the adult word for darn, and support our state's need for a championship parade. Available now for a limited time only. Also exclusively available through SotaStick is a Brock Faber and Marc-Andre Fleury designed hats. I am rocking the Brock Faber one as we speak. If you are watching it, looks great, feels great, and supports a greater cause, with all proceeds going to the Minnesota Wild Foundation, which helps grow the game of hockey here in the state of hockey. Get yours while they last. And as always, smash code Bardown Beauties at checkout for 15% off all purchases at sotastick.com. I forgot that it does a countdown for you. Let's try this again. Hello, everybody. What's up? We're back. Bardown Beauties, episode 275, in the midst of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Your Minnesota Wild making their way in, facing the Vegas Golden Knights. We're one game under our belt because, as always, we're recording this on a Monday. I'm Jesse Pierce, writer for NHL.com. She's Kirsten Kroll, in arena host, MC. Kirsten, how are we doing now that we're one game in? Actually survived the late night puck drop, which ended up being closer to 9:30 than 9. The next one that we will all watch tonight when you're listening to this, a little bit later than that. But how are we feeling this morning?
I mean, I'm tired, but I've been tired. I live in a perpetual state of exhaustion. So that's kind of where we're at.
A perpetually exhausted owl, I feel, is like what my friends and I call each other. Like, that's just what we are.
I mean, it makes sense.
It does. Let's not to harp too much because we are looking ahead to game 2. It's a 7-game ideally series, right? Best of 7, if you will. Let's recap game 1 a little bit. Minnesota falling 4-2. That fourth goal coming on an empty net. Brutal for anybody that bet the under of 5.5 goals too, for 1/10 of a second to make it 6 total goals in general. All in all, first big synopsis for you, Kirsten. I don't think the Minnesota Wild played poorly at all. I liked the majority of that game. I thought we saw a near complete game. There were obviously lapses. The second period, I thought there was kind of a lot of downtime, face-offs, all that. We'll get into the nitty-gritty. But overall, the umbrella, I came away fairly pleased with how Minnesota showed up in game 1.
I did as well. And I kind of also... the Minnesota Wild have been very hard to read because we saw how they started the year. We saw what this team that we still have intact right now, we see what them as a healthy squad are fully capable of, but we also saw how they ended the regular season just performing under what we know they're capable of. But all that to be said, I truly feel people have Minnesota as a bigger underdog than they should in this series. A lot of people just expecting this to be essentially a first round bye. I saw from like a little Facebook post from like a Vegas fan yesterday. First round bye for the Vegas Golden Knights essentially. But I think in last night's game, we saw that's not the case. Like Minnesota very much showing that they're putting up a fight, although there was some low points in the game. Overall, a lot of positives, I think, to take away. But I don't know. I think this series, I could potentially see it going 6 or 7 games. That's what I would expect to see.
Right. And that's kind of, I think, what we expected. We had predicted last week, too, if this was indeed the matchup where it looked like it would be, that it could go 7 because Vegas is a very good team. They're very consistent. Jack Eichel is on another level entirely. But Minnesota matched them in that first period in particular. They matched the pace. They matched the north to south hockey. The only area they didn't match is the faceoffs, which again we'll get into. That's my biggest problem, you guys, heading into the series. It's our biggest problem with the Minnesota Wild for a while now. But because Vegas is so good at the dot and because Minnesota is so poor, you saw the repercussions of that. You saw that in the go-ahead goal for Vegas on the power play 5 seconds in. You lose that faceoff. Gus loses track of it, as he had said, I didn't even think he was going to make that pass, and boom, boom, bang, it's in the back of the net. But in general, again, I think Minnesota kept pace with them. An interesting stat that I found from Sinbin.Vegas, who covers obviously the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas blocked 25 shots of Minnesota's last night, which is tremendous, which means Minnesota is shooting. They are upping their shot attempts. They're generating that offense. That was a big concern of mine, Kirsten, heading in. We saw how kind of lackadaisical the offense was without Kirill, without Ek, but even when they came back, it was kind of like, all right, is this really going to be the magic potion? Have 25 block shots. It's not ideal for Minnesota, but at least they're trying to get the puck to the net.
Oh, that was one of the biggest takeaways from watching the game, too, is it's not for a lack of Minnesota trying, but just that Vegas defense was so tight in last night's game. And I believe, too, correct me if I'm wrong, we saw some really good passes and setups from Kirill Kaprizov, but I believe he was held to one shot on net through the entire game one last night. So Vegas just absolutely dominating in their defensive end. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest keys heading into game two for Minnesota, is how can they break through that and capitalize on opportunities that they've had.
Chef's kiss, that laser feed from Kaprizov to Boldy. Matt Boldy, really good game finding the back of the net. Boldy's finally gotten back to that physical presence again, too, right? That getting on the inside, that grittiness, in addition to the skill set. But God, that vision from Kirill to just know Bolds was cutting in right there. Incredible. And that, you're right, Kirsten. Them limiting Kaprizov, obviously, they know he's the best player. That's going to happen. And you saw a point in time, I believe, where Marco Rossi went up. So you're trying to get that secondary scoring. Another player who I think had a really, really good game, Matt Zuccarello. Shout out to Matt Zuccarello at 35, just blowing past 3 defensemen and doing the damn thing. I thought he put together a really nice game. Didn't necessarily find the score sheet like he would like to, but I'm okay with that. And it's funny because we're again seeing Matt Zuccarello, Kirill Kaprizov on separate lines, but I think you have to keep it that way so you can try to get some of those other lines going, trying to get scoring separated. Otherwise, yeah, if you shut down that top line, if it does indeed stay Kaprizov, Ek, Boldy, then it's not going to be any good for Minnesota.
No, and I would agree with that. I would agree. I was going to say something else, and then I was just...
I felt like you had something there, so I was just,
lackadaisy out the window for a second there.
It's all right. It happens. We're all a little delirious. Speaking of scoring then, too, again, we talked about Matt Boldy looking good, Kirill doing the damn thing, Ecker being Ecker. He was great at the faceoff dot, the one strong suit.
Wasn't it 20 for 30 for him last night in the dot?
Yep. Let's not get into what everyone else did, though. God, it's just so bad. I just hate it. That being said, the bottom 2 line, that 4th line again, I can't do it. I don't want to see them on the ice at all. And they unfortunately got some mismatches too. I believe that 3rd goal that Vegas scored was just a complete mismatch for Minnesota. That 4th line does literally nothing for me. They're feeling like a waste of skates. Like, they're supposed to be a physical line. They're supposed to have that physical presence. I don't see that. Like, I don't know what you do. I mean, honest to gosh, would rather see them roll with 3 lines.
Yeah. Also, I just feel, I don't know, it's probably still just scarred in my memory from Trennan when he literally showed a little too much physicality in one of the final games of the regular season. Who was that even against? It wasn't the Sharks.
Against Vancouver.
Vancouver, yes. I need to see a little less physicality from Trennan personally.
Give me that, like, intensity, right? Like, give me something, like, I just oofta. To be very Minnesotan there. There's nothing. They do absolutely nothing for me. I am curious to see if Vinny Hinostroza works his way back into the lineup at all too. Because again, those are the big bodies. That was Brazo's big thing. We've got a big body out there. Oh, that's Yakov Trenin. We got a big body out there. It doesn't matter if they don't do a damn thing.
Yeah, I still don't understand why we have Brazo on our team. I don't understand that move.
I don't understand it. It's so frustrating for me to watch. In fact, let me pull up their stats last night.
Also, speaking of the 4th line, I have another gripe.
Go.
How do you pronounce Yakov Trenin's name? Because I have been told from PR it's Trenin, But from every broadcaster, LaPanta, Joe O'Donnell,
Yeah.
national broadcast on ESPN, PA announcer at Wild Games, they all say Trenyan, but PR says Trennan. How do you pronounce his name?
I've told you, that's why I've continued to say Trennan, because that's what I thought. But you're right. Our friend Joe O'Donnell says Trenyan. Anthony LaPanta said he told us it was Trenyan. So he told broadcasters one thing. And then John Hines calls him some little word in between, like Trenyanian, or like, I'm just kidding, but
I think it's Trenyan.
He calls him
national
Trenny.
broadcast calling him that. PA announcer calling him that. Every single Wild broadcaster, except for Bar, calling him Trenyan. So I'm going to just say it's Trenyan. It is not Trennan. It is Trenyan.
The good news is you don't have to worry about how to pronounce his name because it's not relevant. He's not relevant to anything. Like, we're not going to find a reason to talk about him unless it's about how bad he is.
Fair. It just drives me insane that we are not on the same page about this. Like, no one is on the same page about how to pronounce his name.
Let's take a look at this. 12 shifts for our dear fourth line. 10 minutes and 45-second total ice time for Trenyan. Brazo less than 10 minutes at 8:56. Did they do anything? We got a shot on goal from Trenyan. Literally nothing. You got okay. All right. Now I might have to just backpedal a little bit.
Why?
8 hits. 8 hits from Trennan.
Trenyan.
Yakov. 8 hits. Brazo with 4. 8 is a good number. I'm actually quite surprised by this. Maybe I was blinded by my own disdain. I don't recall any of those hits being anything. I mean, they must have. Sometimes hits could be Marcus Foligno, shout out to him, 11 hits last night. But
I would
even Matt
expect
Boldy,
that from Moose, though.
Matt Boldy 6.
That surprises me a little bit more.
Right? Like, again, that physicalness.
Like you said, he's refound his physicality.
I'm loving that. Okay, and actually, yeah, looking at Trennan stats, they're not so bad. There's a takeaway even and a block shot.
Shout out Trennan. You're blinded by your disdain for him.
Apparently. All right. I will try my darndest on Tuesday to look beyond that and be like, that's okay. The good news is, again, they weren't out there that much. Gus Nyquist was probably the worst.
He's been having a really tough go, which I find so disappointing because I was so excited when Minnesota picked him up.
They call him the Ghost Nyquist. He had one shot and 2 hits in that.
He is not, when was it? 2022, 2023? I
think it's 22.
Yeah. He is not 2022 Gus Nyquist.
No, he's 2 years older. I think he has another kid in there too. And actually, as much as I was critical on the face-off, the stats are telling me otherwise. So maybe I need to recoup and rewatch the game. Minnesota actually 60% of the face-offs won last night. 20 shots on goal, 54 hits from your Minnesota Wild, according to the game stats, which really?
Yeah.
That's insane.
But also, I think the moment from the game that's like burned in my mind that I was so impressed by, granted, it's what you need to do in the playoffs. You need to put your body on the line, do things you wouldn't normally do in the regular season. And what I mean by that, Marcus Johansson, that nasty shot he blocked that he was down on the ice for a little bit of extra time, had to be helped over the boards to get back on the bench by his teammates. I love to see that in playoff hockey. And you know what? I love to see that from Marcus Johansson, especially.
You know what? We gotta give our flowers to Marcus Johansson, who, again, was reminded that it's a contract year and that it's almost done. And so he has had a really, really nice couple games. I
have been saying this for 2 years about Marcus Johansson.
But you know, where was this in like January when we could have used it, right?
Well, was that the time of year when he got injured?
He's always hurt.
He is always hurt.
He's soft. He's just a little soft.
Not when it's contract looming.
I mean,
we saw that last night.
I guess so. Let's go back to the blue line then too. Zeev Buium, the big storyline, obviously, last night makes his NHL debut. A lot of pressure to put on a kid. It's the first time in franchise history that a rookie makes his NHL debut in the playoffs. I thought he had a nice game. I think there were obviously times where it showed that it's the NHL now, and this is a huge step up, right? But they gave him all the opportunities to put him out there in the 6-on-5 situation of power plays, right? I mean, to quarterback that, I think he did well. Obviously, you look at him trying to find Matt Boldy in that one situation who was not open at all. There was some moments of panic. I don't know if I love having him with Zach Bogosian for that reason. Like, I really would have loved to see him with Jared Spurgeon, somebody who's so responsible at home, especially if you want Zeev to be a part of that play. Now, Zach Bogosian is too, and Zach Bogosian has the size to offset. I mean, Zeev's bigger. He's probably about the same size as Spurge, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's a smaller player.
He's young, right? So he hasn't really built that muscle up necessarily either, and isn't used to the heaviness that's going to be thrown around in the series. But I would love to see that switch. I don't know that it will, Kirsten, but I think it would behoove Zeev and the team to move those pairings around.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong. This either resulted in a goal last night or a bad breakaway. I forget which of the two, but it was Buium and Bogosian on the ice. Minnesota caught in the midst of a change, and it was Bogosian going to the bench, Zeev booking it down to the other end of the ice, and I think it resulted in a goal. Am I right?
I'm pretty sure.
Like,
I think that was
bad.
The Brett Howden one. Yeah, like so that was.
That alone is burned in my recent memory where I'm like, let's change up the D pairings a little bit. Help the rookie out.
And I don't know necessarily that the answer is putting, like, obviously a Declan Chisholm in, or no. I would imagine the stats for Zeev, again, who was the number 12 overall pick last year for Minnesota, had one shot in 13 minutes, 27 of ice time. So he did fine. Again, there were certainly times where you're like, ooh, yeah, this kid's only 19, 20 years old? 19, yeah, like, yikes. And it's a different game, right? I think that's an eye-opening experience to not only make this jump into the NHL, but to do it in the playoffs, do it against a Vegas team who is so skilled in so many different areas. But I thought he held his own. Again, I just would like to see a different matchup. I personally would love to go back to, like, Faber and Middleton again. I don't love Faber and Brodin, but I don't necessarily want to bog Brodin down with Bogosian or Mary. I don't know what the real answer is. I just would like to have Zeev get a better opportunity when he can shake loose from Bogo.
I would too. And even talking about Zeev just a little bit more, even like on my personal Instagram, I was doing a little Q&A last night. The overwhelming amount of questions was people asking about Zeev Buium, what we think we could expect from him in retrospect in his debut NHL game. And I just kept saying, level your expectations. And we have talked about this a lot. Like, he and Brock Faber, two very different players. Also, Brock came in a little bit of a different situation when he made his NHL debut. Now, also, just think of the pressure. You're already a smaller player. You're 19. You're making your NHL debut in game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, there's a little added nerves there as opposed to end of the regular season making your debut. So I think people, again, expectations, like, over the ceiling. Let's lower him just a little bit. He was not bad. He was not disappointing, I would say, by any means. But he's not likely to be just out of the gates blowing your mind.
No. And he was composed, too, for the most part. Again, you saw small moments of panic a little bit, which I think is completely normal. But no, I thought he had a nice game, and it's very evident that he is going to be a large part of the future. Putting him and Faber together down the road, God, that's going to be incredible. Like, that's going to be a sensational pairing.
And when the refs make some calls, maybe we'll see him on the power play, getting an opportunity there.
That, you know what, I did have to laugh about Ryan Hartman not getting the call, because immediately ESPN did point out something that I didn't quite recognize, that Hartman was holding on to the dude's stick as he got cross-checked in the face. It should have been a call, without question. I think that definitely, I'm not willing to say the game hinged on that and changed everything. It would have been interesting to have gotten that call, or have gotten a few other ones. I didn't think the officiating was nearly as bad as some people had viewed it.
Well, I also think officiating, they held their whistles back a lot. I mean, we didn't even get a call until halfway through the second when Jewel got that high stick.
Right.
Which unfortunately resulted in Vegas scoring 5 seconds into the power play.
And that's the thing. You cannot let Vegas get on the power play because their power play is top 5. Their PK is top 5. I mean, they are so good in those areas. And they're the least penalized team in the league. They're the first team, I can't remember the exact stat, but the first team in forever to have less than 200 penalty minutes team wide in a season since they started keeping track of that stat. So they're very smart. Bruce Cassidy has them playing very disciplined, very smart hockey, which is good. But going back to the errors that were kind of maybe made by Minnesota in that first game, Brock Faber, I thought, struggled. I love Brock Faber. I don't want this to get confused, and I'm not being overly critical by any stretch because he still had nearly 30 minutes of ice time again last night, and he's still being put in these situations. I love that 1-2 punch of power play unit 1 and power play unit 2, having Faber and Zeev quarterback each of those. But let's call a spade a spade. Brock Faber did not look himself last night. And Kirsten, you pointed out to me earlier, you have felt that this has kind of been the theme since Four Nations. And I would agree. I think there have been, the reason it's noticeable is because they're mistakes that Brock Faber would not normally be making, like passing across the ice in front of Gustafsson to who I don't know. Like there were just some things that you were kind of like, that's very uncharacteristic of Brock, which is why they are noticeable to me. Again, I'm not saying he had a bad game, and I'm not even necessarily just pointing to the turnover that led to the Vegas first goal, I think it was, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's not even just that. It was just he seemed to step behind a little bit, and there were just kind of areas that it's not the Brock Faber that we've known, and that's okay. That's going to happen. I'm not saying that this is sound the alarms, Brock Faber sucks, yada yada. That's far from what I'm suggesting. But to me, Kirsten, he just didn't look like himself again, and I'm curious to see his bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. I believe since coming back from Four Nations, that's kind of when we saw him regress a bit. Like you mentioned, uncharacteristic mistakes from Brock Faber. And maybe that's because he's just exceeded expectations so much from the second he hit the ice in a Wild sweater. But this is the first time we've seen Brock Faber really be human. But still, a Minnesota Wild squad, excuse me, with Brock Faber is still much better than a Wild squad without Brock Faber. But I mean, I don't know. And I don't like to say this because everybody is hurt this time of year, like every single team battling crazy injuries. I wouldn't be surprised, though, to learn that like he's being plagued by something else right now and is just battling through. Like we knew that last season with him, too.
Yeah, like what was it, broken ribs last year?
Broken ribs, yeah.
Yeah, like that's so incredibly painful, and I'm sure there is something, and I think you're right. I think it extends back to Four Nations because you look at the amount of time he logged there. Like this kid has not had a break in a very long time, and he's playing heavy hockey. So that's also comes with the territory. You get the privilege of being one of these elite superstars. That means you get the privilege of being criticized, and I don't think Brock would take any heed to that by any stretch of the imagination. It was just little things that I noticed that I wanted to be slightly critical of. Philip Gustafsson too. I will say, soft goal, 2 of them that I was kind of like, But the thing that impressed me the most is the way Gus rebounded. I think there were times throughout the course of this season that Gus would allow those soft goals, and it was very hard for him to reset. And it just kind of felt like a little bit of a breakdown, right? Whereas this last night, game 1, you didn't see that. You saw him reset and kind of get back into the groove. And again, I thought top to bottom, overall, it's a very B, maybe even a B+ game from Minnesota. But Philip Gustafsson did his job. People kept saying, Kirsten, that there was the duel of Adin Hill and Philip Gustafsson, and Adin Hill won. I don't think that's the case. I think the Vegas defense won, and Adin Hill was the recipient of that. Because I still don't think Adin Hill in a goaltending duel is going to come out on top for Vegas.
No, and also, I mean, going back to the conversation about blocked shots alone from Vegas, like that's your first line of defense before it gets to the goaltender. So no, it was definitely the Vegas defense that won that game last night for them. But also again, this is recency bias, but something that I just had to laugh about in last night's game was Jack Eichel on the breakaway taking a shot. Not to make fun of the ESPN announcer, but he commented, and I can quote, he said, Jack Eichel, just wide of the net. Philip Gustafson may have gotten a touch on it. No, that was a very definite, clear pad save by Philip Gustafson. So it wasn't that Eichel biffed the net. It was definitely a pad save by Gustafson that sent the puck wide.
And to be fair, keeping Eichel from scoring last night is huge. So shout out to Minnesota, because that was going to be the thing. Now they let Thomas Hertl get in there, who I've warned everybody that's kind of my second. Like, you got to keep an eye on him. And Mark Stone obviously playing with Eichel there. But I think, again, the matchup, it's close. We talked about this last week, Kirsten. I feel on paper, Vegas and Minnesota are fairly even. Like, there are certain areas where I think Vegas has the advantage, but Minnesota has the advantage in the goaltending department. And I think in the resiliency, right? I think as much as John Hines wanted to tell us, no, we're not using the end of the season and how we played and how we came back as the momentum, it's definitely given them that confidence, right? And you saw that again with Matt Boldy bringing it within one with, 2 minutes left to play or whatever it was toward the end of that third period. So I think it's going to be a really fun series. I'm very excited. That being said, Kirsten, what do you think are some of the keys heading into game 2? First of all, let's get the biggest question out of the way. How the hell do we stay awake for that? Because I will say last night I was exhausted, and that game ended just shy of midnight and started an hour earlier than our lovely game 2 will in Vegas.
Lots of caffeine and eating some very energizing, nutritious meals is probably what I would say, but mainly just a lot of energy drinks on tap, because also I don't think coffee is going to do it. You need some.
So I can have a Celsius?
Yeah, but I'm just going to continue to remind you every time that you drink one that they are bad for you. They are very bad for you.
Those, I told you, I've had to, like, it makes sense ever since you've kind of put that in my head. I'm also like, my anxiety skyrockets, and I'm on a heavy dose of anxiety medication, but when I have a Celsius, and I usually do it not very smartly, because I'll do it kind of on an empty stomach, which isn't going to help my anxiety at all, but I can feel it. I'm like shaky. I'm like, this isn't fun. Like, this isn't good, but I'm like kind of awake because I'm too scared to like do anything else and whatever. Yeah. Obviously, this podcast is not sponsored by Celsius.
It's not, but if they want to, shout out, we're taking applications. But no, if you have any other tips to stay awake, please let me know, because these next 2 days are going to be rough for your girl. I work full-time tomorrow and Wednesday in office, and then right after work, I get a couple-hour break, then got to head to Treasure Island, host the watch party at Treasure Island, be back in the office by 8:30 the next day. But thankfully, I have Wednesday night off, so I can just sleep. But so man, it's going to be a doozy.
I would recommend naps if you can get them in. That's great. That's going to be wonderful. I recommend not having kids too if you want to have any chance of surviving this. If you have kids, well,
we're good there. But I do have a dog who is great, but I'm like,
that's true.
He adds other stressors to my life.
Nice. But no, that being said, again, how are you feeling? I feel fairly good. How do you feel heading into game 2 for Minnesota? And are there any areas that you're like, yep, this needs to be it, and then this needs to change, and Minnesota could be victorious on Tuesday?
Honestly, I'm feeling very good. I say continue to play the way that you did in game 1. I really was impressed by the discipline Minnesota had, especially staying out of the box for the most part. I would say just the biggest area to tighten up is one, defensively. Overall, fairly pleased with the defensive game from Minnesota, but still, you can always just tighten up your defense even a little bit more, especially seeing us paired up against Vegas's defense. And then the other thing I would say that's key is breaking through Vegas's defense. I think that's going to be huge. It wasn't for a lack of trying to generate offense. It was just anything we did, Vegas was right there on top of us. So finding a way to crack that code is going to be probably the biggest difference in this series.
I mean, there wasn't much ice out there for either team, which again was something that I expected, and I think that needs to remain consistent. I think there's not a whole lot that I would change from game 1, right? Suffice to say, yes, Vegas came out, but it wasn't, like you said, Kirsten, for a lack of effort from Minnesota at all. I mean, I think Boldy and Kaprizov are really clicking. I think Minnesota did a nice job trying to get to the inside of those big defensemen who we have mentioned are going to be, that's going to be the biggest challenge. Once you get inside, I don't think it's a problem to score on Adin Hill. I don't feel like that's the issue. I would maybe try to figure out a way to get that third line going a little bit more and try to get that fourth line going, which apparently they did according to... I still don't believe that. I don't believe he had 8 hits. I don't believe it.
You're blinded by your disdain for him, I'm telling you.
It doesn't make sense. I don't remember anything. There was nothing. I don't remember it. Whatever. But no, I wouldn't. I would try to get even the second line going a little bit more, right? Maybe there's some tweaks that you can make, but I think ultimately John Hines, from the coaching perspective, did a nice job double shifting the guys at the end, knowing that this is where they're at. And Philip Gustafson too. And again, at the blue line as well. So keep it going. Could be a really good series. Like Kirsten mentioned, don't forget to check out the watch party at TI. What time does it start tomorrow or tonight when people are listening?
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Nothing like starting your day at 9 p.m. for some people, right? Like,
I know. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm very excited, very fortunate to get this opportunity. But oh man, just this. Anytime we make the playoffs, and especially when we play Vegas, we know already as soon as that matchup before the schedule even comes out, we just know it's going to be some late nights.
That's all right. We got Game 3 in St. Paul Thursday at 8 p.m., which isn't bad. I'm not going to get mad. And I'm loving a 3 o'clock puck drop on Saturday because that means plenty of post-game fun time if we want to have it.
Absolutely. Right? Very much looking forward to that.
Stay tuned. We'll have more information about kind of our plans once the playoffs return back to St. Paul. But first, Kirsten, let's get to some cues with the Beauts. I will kick it off. This one coming to us from Jason Mashka. He wants to know, what is your pregame ritual when the Wild are on the road? Do you have any pregame rituals, Kirsten?
Pregame ritual? Honestly, no. I really don't have like a pregame ritual, I would say. I would say probably the thing in hindsight that I do very consistently is I eat a very big full meal, probably home cooked.
Smart.
And then depending what time of day it is, like if it's 7 p.m., I'm probably drinking a glass of wine. Otherwise, if it's like 10 p.m., I'm either having a cup of tea or an energy drink. So I don't know. I don't know. It's very chill vibes around here. I don't really do anything crazy. How about you?
I would say home or away. I just try to get a nice little afternoon nap in. And it's so funny because I am so anti-nap. It's very hard for me to nap because all I do is I lay down and then I think of everything I should be doing that doesn't include rest. But I've really been working very hard to give myself some grace and be like, nope, we need to get a nap, even if it's like a 20-minute nap. And that's all I want. I never want like a very long one. But especially when the kids are in school and I don't have to take care of their little human lives and every need that they need, I need to just sneak those in, just to give me that energy. Because like we just said, it's basically a second shift. Like we're up in the morning doing our thing and working and all of that. I need that little break when I can get it before I get ready for that second shift, especially when these games are night. So that's the big one. I try to eat. Probably not health. Sometimes I don't eat nearly as healthy as I should on a game day. But
does anybody really eat that healthy on a game day though?
No,
especially Taco Bell post game. I mean,
I know
you got to do it though.
Problem. I forget to eat sometimes because I get so caught up in like the chaos of the day that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten anything. So that's why sometimes we get a pregame T-bill because I'm like, I need to grab something and put something in my system. And sometimes
also at midnight when it's the only place that's open and you're starving because you ate dinner at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And everything's thrown off. You just...
It's a cruel world out there.
It is.
It's a tough life.
It is.
Tough life. But
it's my turn to ask the next question.
Yes, it is.
So I'm going to take the reins on this one.
Oh boy.
This one I saw and I was like, I'm going to address this very quick because also it's very relevant. Do you guys like WWE at all? So in the spirit right now as well of WrestleMania currently happening, and our new men's heavyweight champion, Jey Uso, Yeet. I'm still very new to wrestling, so
look at how excited you are, though. The enthusiasm. Wow.
Okay. I'm becoming a fan. I think I need to pay attention to the storylines to really grasp everything. But I went to Monday Night Raw for the first time. What was this now? 2-3 weeks ago now?
It's recent, right?
It was. Yeah. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. Like it was so cool. And I have the biggest crush now on Seth Rollins as well. So I would say I'm becoming a fan. So
there you go.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it was funny. My mom would work late on Thursday nights, and so Thursday nights we'd watch wrestling with my dad, and Stone Cold, The Rock, all of those guys. So I was kind of into it then. Like that was kind of fun. Like I thought Stone Cold was hilarious, just crushing beers and like doing the damn thing. You know, The Rock was The Rock. I haven't gotten into it since. I've watched like all of like the Vince McMahon documentaries and like all of that, and I just can't. You'd think I would, because I'm a sucker for like cheesy storyline situations, and I just, for whatever reason, haven't quite gotten back into. But I think what makes it's not even just the characters that are out there, but the fans are so into it. So I think, yeah, going to an event would completely change my opinion, right? Like I think if I went to a Raw or whatever and just was like immersed in that atmosphere, it would be kind of cool.
So different than anything I've ever done, but I had a really good time. It was so cool. Plus I love Jackie Redmond. Big fan of her. I also love John Cena. I have an ornament of him on my Christmas tree. So yeah, I would say I'm getting into it. I'm getting acclimated into the
Miz. I know him only because I love Road Rules and Real World, and that was him back in my day, like watching the Miz dominate on those shows. So it's so funny to me that he's moved on into this new realm of wrestling life. And yeah, I guess wasn't there like a Minnesota kid that was wrestling in WrestleMania yesterday, I think?
I am not that well versed yet to answer that.
And are WWE and like WWF different? These are all questions. I'm turning the
think they're different, at least different levels. I don't know. I'm admittedly like 2 weeks into this world, so I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, but I would consider you a fan. See, you surprised me. You got that, and you got NASCAR. You're kind of a whole new person. Sometimes.
Well, I grew up with NASCAR. My family is very much NASCAR.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, love that. A couple more cues with the Buttes. From O-Train, if you could change a rule in the NHL, what would it be?
Let the goalies fight.
Yeah.
Let goalies fight. No, I wouldn't do that. There was another one that I always think about, but I always forget. And I would love to, I don't have a solution, but I would love for us to find a way to change the way we rule icing. I'm not a fan of icings.
I think they've been figuring that. Like, they've been trying new things. The one thing that I found very interesting, now, of course, we could always say get rid of the shootout, just keep it overtime, blah, 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 whatever. That's not going to happen. And I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it because it's eliminated in the playoffs. That's where it matters, whatever. I did find it interesting. I believe it was The Athletic did their like player polls, right? Where they asked the players anonymously like different things. And I feel like it was something like 60% want to do the PWHL's jailbreak for the penalty kill, where how does it go? If a shorthanded goal is scored, your player is released, right? From the penalty?
Yeah, if you are on the penalty kill and you score shorthanded, penalty is over.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a fun rule, such a fun spin on it. And I love that if the NHL guys are into it, like let's add that in. That's kind of cool. Yeah. And it's different from like it's a different one.
I would agree with that. And also I think it's kind of like a nice little reward incentive as well too. Like, yeah, you score shorthanded, you kind of do deserve for the power play to be done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, we did the thing that we were supposed to do. Yeah, I think we got time for maybe one or two more. Kirsten, did you find one more?
Yes. Ooh, I'm trying to find. Well, we already answered how you stay awake. Pre-game ritual, we talked about that too. It's been so long. Do we remember what a playoff series win feels like? No, I don't.
It was before I even covered the team, right? Their last one. I didn't even cover. I've only covered losses. It even feels like it's been so long since they were last in the playoffs. And it wasn't that long. It's only been a year in between. But that seems like such a distant memory when they lost to Dallas. Like, and it was a whole new team too, right? Like it was a completely different comprised team in a lot of sense.
Also, really quick pivot. Dallas without Jason Robertson week to week. That's going to be detrimental for them as they play Colorado. But that is just a very quick pivot. I just really wanted to address quick.
I bet you did. I think
first round bounce for
Colorado.
Dallas.
Yeah, I think Colorado's going to kind of take it to them. Like I was watching a little bit of their game one. Colorado's obviously up in that series. I can give you guys a rundown. First of all of them, Winnipeg has a 1-0 lead on St. Louis. That series is super fun. That first game was tremendous. And I know we give them a hard time, but the whiteout looks so sick in Winnipeg. Like,
My
that
favorite
looked
thing about
really
the
nice.
whiteout was the Flyers fan there in their Flyers
Just
jersey, bright orange, ruining the whiteout. So that was my favorite part about the whiteout.
It looked so good, though, but that's going to be a really fun series, I think. That's going to be really good. But Dallas and Colorado just absolutely kind of manhandling Dallas and not apologizing for it, which does make me wonder, like, maybe Jake Ottinger isn't as strong as I thought he would be. Like, I don't know. It just they didn't look good, Kirsten. They didn't look good, like, at all.
I mean, I mentioned this too, I think last week too, just seeing how Dallas has fallen apart essentially at the wrong time of the year.
Like,
You went
8
on
straight
that
losses,
5
right?
I don't know. Last time I checked, it was 5 straight. I kind of checked out a little bit after that. But regardless, end of the regular season, you're on a losing skid. Now you enter the playoffs. You essentially, I mean, I don't like to speculate on injuries, but if you are without one of your best players to start the playoffs and they're listed as week to week, that's not good. Like, that's got to be something major that you're not playing in the postseason for your team. And Jason Robertson, to me, is not a player Dallas can afford to lose. So I think it's a first round exit for them with Colorado without a Jason Robertson. They fell apart at the very wrong time after such a strong season.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of incredible that they've fallen apart as much as they have.
I love it. I love watching their downfall because I prayed for it.
I bet you do.
Moving
on,
I'm a certified hater.
Obviously, Vegas won up 1-0 over on the West in the final Western Conference game. LA and Edmonton, which is going to be a doozy, I'm sure, kicks off tonight. Over in the East, Toronto is going to absolutely run through Ottawa. I watched that game yesterday. Yeah. There is just no chance in hell. Sorry, Brady. It's just
Brady Tkachuk is another player who I don't want to see wins happen because
he looks
for.
like a thumb.
I think it's just he pisses me off. So it's not that I say I want bad things to happen to him because that's not true, but I do not want to see him win.
That's fair.
I think the best way to put it. Also, poor Edmonton. I want to see Connor McDavid hoist a Stanley Cup, but they're also heavily injury-ridden right now.
Yes.
Ekholm, really I think, is done. It's just, another tough go for my Oilers.
Carolina, though. Carolina's looking like the Carolina that we predicted. They also very dominant over New Jersey.
It's also New Jersey.
It's also without Jack Hughes too, right? Like, it's what are you gonna do? And then I think they lost another one of their guys last night, didn't they?
I don't know. I would have to look.
I think the other one. Oh my God, Luke. I think Luke got hurt.
The Hughes brothers.
Yeah,
not a good year for them. No, unfortunately. No. But yeah, Carolina. I mean, I'm always very hesitant about them.
They looked good though. They looked good from what we watched.
I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for Rod.
Got the kids to watch hockey yesterday for a bit, which was kind of fun. Like, Hudson was like, I want to watch this Toronto game. I was like, they're killing them. We don't need to watch this anymore. This is a murder right now, so we could turn it off. You got Tampa and Florida, the Battle of Florida happening tonight, and Washington and Montreal also needing to kick things off. I forget about Montreal a lot.
I rather would have seen the Blue Jackets in it.
God, I know.
So like, that's where I could hold extra animosity towards Montreal right now.
I could completely get behind a play-in for situations like that. Even Calgary, right? Like, Calgary and Columbus were so close, and they finished it out in the streak. Now, to the other point, though, it's an 82-game season. Win more, right? Like, half of the teams get in at this point. Just win more. Otherwise, in the regular season, you shouldn't need a play-in to establish that. But I want all the good things for Dean Evson, and I still keep chuckling. I shared it with Mike last night, that video of their one Russian player who speaks no English, who got a game misconduct, went and sat on the bench, and then hopped back in, and the refs were like, what are you doing out here?
Yep.
And then your boy Fantilli afterward just cracking up after it. He's like, dude goes and gets a sip of Gato and hops back in. Like,
the refs didn't notice for like 5 minutes.
Yes.
Like, that was incredible. I love that. How can you not be a fan of Columbus? Honestly, I'm rooting for them. I want to see them make the postseason next year. I
Yeah,
want
I
good
mean, just
things
great.
for Columbus.
Great storyline there in the season that they put together in general. And again, Dean Evson, we adore him here.
Dean just
and
has fun. I watched the last few regular season games of Columbus, and Dean just cracking jokes in the presser. Apparently, his realtor works for the Blue Jackets or something in every press conference. They did a little clip where he would point at him every time before he would address the media and just be like, "There's my realtor."
love
It was
it.
cute. I loved it.
Shout out to him.
I need a
I
Columbus
think that's going
jersey.
to do it, though. We'll leave it on that note. I think playoffs are off to a good start for most of us. Shout out to everybody who came out to TRs for our live show for the month. That was always a good time. Come out to TI tonight. Catch Kirsten and crew. I will not be there at all. I thought about it. And I was like, no. I'm going to sit on my couch and watch
Come
it.
and join me.
Could be fun. I mean, I do love gambling a little bit. Responsible gambling. Toss a couple in the slot machine. And then, we've got games 3 and 4 here in St. Paul. Stay tuned to our social channels for that. Don't forget to check out SotaStick. A lot of really great new releases. The Gosh Darn Parade or Damn Parade, whatever your preference might be. They've got the Milk shirt. They've got the Fingers Crossed. And then obviously don't forget to also check out the Minnesota Wild Foundation auction where they've got Fleury Faber hats still available for purchase. And everything else at SotaStick is Chef's Kiss. We love it. Shout out to Talk North, Royal Credit Union, and Grainbelt. We'll catch you guys next week. Until then, let's go Minnesota. Have a good one.